Okay. I'll call to order the City Council meeting for March 25th, 2021. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Steve Cherney.
Here.
Kevin Kadada.
Here.
Tim Rude.
Here.
Cindy Fuhrer.
Here.
And Scott Palava.
Here.
Okay, before we get going, just a reminder, per the governor's executive order, masks are still required. If you do come up to speak, you're allowed to remove your mask while you speak, but then when you go back and sit down, please reinstall it. Tonight's agenda goes through 10N. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda?
Mayor, I'd request that resolution 2021-25, a resolution calling for a hearing on the improvement be added to the agenda.
Okay, we'll call that O.
I move we approve the agenda with that addition.
Motion by Councilperson Fuhrer.
Second.
Second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes. Consider approval of the minutes from the February 25th, 2021 regular meeting. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes?
Will we approve the minutes?
Second that, Your Honor.
Motion by Councilman Kadada, second by Councilman Cherney to approve the minutes as presented. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. We do have a public hearing tonight, so I'll call to order this proposed assessment public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the City Council will meet at 6 p.m. or shortly thereafter on March 25th, 2021 in the City Council Chambers, 415 Central Street West, to consider and possibly adopt proposed assessments for delinquent accounts owed to the City of Lonsdale. The following is the other information that is statutorily required to be contained in this notice. The properties proposed to be assessed are those with delinquent accounts owed to the City of Lonsdale. The total amount of the proposed assessment is $15,503.77. Such assessments are proposed to be payable with the 2022 property taxes. To the payment, interest shall be added on the entire assessment from the date of the assessment resolution until December 31st, 2022. The proposed assessment roll is on file with the City Administrator at City Hall, 415 Central Street West. Written and oral objections will be considered. No appeal may be taken as to the amount of any assessment unless a signed objection is filed with the City Administrator prior to the hearing or presented to the presiding officer at the meeting. An appeal to District Court may be made by serving notice upon the Mayor or City Administrator within 30 days after adoption of the assessment and filing such notice with the District Court within 10 days after service upon the Mayor or Clerk, and you are not entitled to the possibility of a deferment established pursuant thereto Minnesota Statute 435.193 to 435.195. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. This assessment hearing is pretty straightforward. It is for delinquent accounts. At the time that this memo was written, there was 39 delinquent accounts totaling $15,302.36 that pertained to water, and then one for abatement of nuisance for $160. The reason that we're having this hearing, we had one, I believe, back last July or August as well, is because due to COVID and the governor's executive orders, we're not allowed to shut water off for delinquent accounts. The Minnesota Attorney General has stated that that would be considered an eviction, and like I said, based on the governor's executive orders, people can't be evicted during COVID. The attached assessment roll was included in the packet. Since then, we had 11 accounts pay some or all, I believe all of theirs. There should be 28, I believe. 2 or 3 paid a substantial amount. Otherwise, that's really staff's presentation for the hearing is delinquent accounts. And the only action taken at this time would be to allow public comment regarding the delinquent accounts to be assessed.
Okay, is there anybody off the floor that cares to speak at this time in regards to the assessment hearing? Has there been any calls to City Hall or any written objections?
Neither.
Okay, last call.
We close the public hearing.
Motion by Councilman Karada.
Second.
Second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This public hearing is now closed. Presentation of citizens' petitions and comments. Comments limited to 2 minutes. So if you're not on the agenda, now is your opportunity to speak. Okay, on to the consent agenda. There's a number of items tonight. The monthly bills, the treasurer's report, board and commission minutes. Consider approval of resolution 2021-16, a resolution appointing, the mayor and city administrator of the city of Lawrenceville to the Lawrenceville Firemen's Relief Association, LFRA Board of Trustees. Consider approval of a Minnesota lawful gambling LG 2020 application for exempt permit requested by the Church of the Immaculate Conception. Consider approval of an application and permit for a 1-day to 4-day temporary on-sale liquor license requested by the Church of the Immaculate Conception. Consider approval of a request for proposals for mosquito control management services. And consider approval of a quote in the amount of $15,535 submitted by Blue Show Enterprises for hauling and applying of biosolids. Would anybody like any of those items pulled for discussion?
No. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second?
second by Councilperson Fear. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So there is no old business. On to new business. Consider approval of resolution 2021-17, a resolution adopting assessments for delinquent accounts. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. While we held the public hearing, there was no comments presented at the hearing. The next step is to take formal action and approve the resolution which sets the terms of the assessments and the assessment roll. By adopting the proposed resolution, the council is approving the proposed assessments, approving the assessments be paid with the 2022 property taxes, accrue interest at a rate of 4.9%, which will accrue through December 31st, 2022, if not paid within 30 days of this resolution being adopted, and then directing the city administrator to certify a copy of the assessment roll to the Rice County Property Taxes and Elections Director. With the payments that were made, the total amount to be assessed was reduced by just under $4,100 to $11,367.27. Unless there's any questions, staff would make a recommendation to approve resolution 2021-17.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Kadada, second by Councilman Cherney. Any further discussion?
One question for you, Joel. When these are, when they pay these along with their property taxes, are they paid in full or are they paid in increments?
Yeah, it would be, my understanding is it'd be split between the first and the second half.
Okay, so,
I guess I'd
so
have
after
to-
one cycle, they would be paid?
They will be paid in 2020.
Okay.
Obviously, assuming that they make their property tax payments as
Okay.
indicated.
Thank you.
And then we receive payment at that point. We don't get paid by the county ahead of time.
No, we would receive the assessment with our distribution of our property tax statement, settlement from the county.
And it's,
So-
and people they certainly can pay them anytime in the middle of the tax season? They can pay anytime during the year?
Nope, once they're on the taxes, we would not take that
Okay.
because the tax statements are already out and have a set dollar amount on them.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I'm good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, recognition of Rebecca Mager, Brianna Harper, Alex Watts, and Kelsey Palava. You guys, gals all care to come up to the front along with your scoutmaster? Welcome to Lonsdale. You know, I read these couple articles. I'm just going to read a little synopsis of the first couple articles, and I just think it's remarkable what you gals have accomplished. The first one here is in the Trojan Times. Rebecca Meagher was one of the first female scouts to earn Eagle Scout honors in the state of Minnesota. On October 1st, New Prague High School senior Rebecca Meagher became one of the first female Eagle Scouts in history, which is the highest rank a scout can earn. Only 4% of scouts earn this rank. To receive it, a scout must earn at least 21 merit badges, take on leadership within their troop, and complete many hours of community service. They must also organize and lead an Eagle project. This other article is in the Lonsdale newspaper, Lonsdale News Review. Brianna Harper, Kelsey Palava, and Alexandria Watts, all of Lonsdale, worked through time constraints, a global pandemic, and other challenges to earn the highest ranking afforded to Scouts BSA, a program they couldn't join until 2 years ago. After earning their required merit badges and completing leadership service projects, the 3 Lonsdale Scouts had their board of review to earn their Eagle rank Wednesday, February 16th, via Zoom. Following Rebecca Meagher, who earned her Eagle in 2020, the trio are among the first female Eagles in Lonsdale and part of the historic inaugural Female Eagle Scouts. I'm very proud of them. They're on their way, said Troop 327 Scoutmaster Nancy Zellner. This is just another stepping stone to a great career. I just thought it's important for our community to recognize all 4 of you along with the Scoutmaster for the accomplishment and the pride that you've brought upon Lonsdale. I think it's really just a fantastic accomplishment for all 4 of you. And I just want to make sure that the City Council and the public recognize what you have accomplished. I guess Scoutmaster, maybe you could talk a little of the process and how they accomplished their goal.
The girls originally came and were in the venturing crew because girls were not allowed in the troop, but the venturing crew is 14 to 21. So these girls for a year knocked it out of the park and did all these wonderful things that they would have done had they been in the troop. Then, February 1st, 2019, they were allowed to. And it was very hard to get them to do everything over again that they already had done. And they're all girls, so they did fabulous. This could not have been done without the senior leadership that worked with me and helped me and guided me, their parents, and the scouts themselves. I'm very proud of them. A good friend of mine said they got a golden ticket now.
Nice.
They're going to be looked at everywhere they go, if college applications, job applications, and they're amazing women, all 4 of them. I couldn't be any prouder of them. The 3 of them, the last 3 got it. Kelsey was already 18. Brianna, you weren't yet 18, correct? And Alex turned 18 the day she took her board of review, and she had COVID.
Oh, jeez.
So, but they all came out shining stars, and through this pandemic and everything they've had to do, all of us are just over the moon proud. And this little town of Lonsdale, I have 5 girls with these 4 girls and 1 other girl. The only reason why she's not standing up here right now is time restriction, because she joined later. But she's got everything done except her Eagle project,
Nice.
and she'll be on there too. So the first 5 girls in the troop are going to be the first 5 Eagles here in Lonsdale. I have 2 new ones, and I'm hoping to get a few more so we can keep running. So put it out there.
Really
It's a
good
good
job.
program.
If you care to just give us your name and maybe just tell us your major accomplishment. I see it's kind of listed here in the paper, but you
I'm
understand.
Rebecca Meagher, and my project was Bat Houses for the Webster Township Park.
Nice, yeah. Go Webster, right?
I'm Alexandria Watts. I built the robotics boxes for the TCO robotics club in Montgomery.
Nice, good job, good job.
I'm Brianna Harper, and I did the archery tables at the museum.
Nice, that's really nice.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Palava, and I made the Little Free Library at JC's Park.
Nice, well, good job.
Very good.
Yes, we're all very proud of you, us as a community, and really glad for all the work you've done. So give them a round of applause. Really good job. Really good job.
So they can get a picture, please.
How many Eagle Scouts do we have in Lonsdale now?
As of now, Troop 327, both the boy and the girls, is 14.
Okay.
Really?
Since the troop started in 2005, I believe.
Okay, because there are some that are Eagle Scouts that are adult.
Oh, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know a statistic how many, because there was also the former troop, Donnie Smisek.
Yeah.
He was an Eagle Scout in the former troop, and that
Sure.
folded
Okay.
years ago.
Right.
And then Dr. Bruce Lischke, with his sons, started 327.
But if you read articles, I mean, like in the business world, I mean, there's some pretty high people that have accomplished Eagle Scout. I mean, was Jimmy Carter, one of the presidents, I thought, was an Eagle Scout or
I
something?
believe all the astronauts except one was an
Really?
Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
Pretty remarkable, yeah. Well, good job, you're on your way, so, thank you very much for
Good
coming.
job, ladies.
Good
Thank
job.
you very much.
Good job.
Thanks for coming.
Great job, ladies. Very nice. All right. Consider approval of request submitted by Lonsdale Area Chamber of Commerce to communities. Shauna Gutsky Cup. Another astute Lonsdale resident. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, council members and mayor. I'm just going to kind of read what I submitted to Joel. On behalf of the Lonsdale Chamber of Commerce, I kindly ask that you accept my request for permits, services, and street closures for support of the 2021 Community Day Festival on Saturday, August 14th. We will closely monitor Governor Walz's executive orders and adjust our festival accordingly. We have added 4 extra wash stations, which will be placed in high-traffic areas, and we will have hand sanitizer, gloves, and masks available. So, in your packet, you should have received cover letter, my permit for 1 to 4 day liquor license, permit and request for street closures, the tentative event schedule, my business courtesy letter, resident courtesy letter, and the TDC Town and Country quote for porta potties and wash stations. So everything will look very similar to 2019, with the exception of switching over a couple items on North Main and South Main. We anticipate closing North Main at 12 o'clock on Friday to set up for tents, tables, beer garden, stage, generator, get all that hooked up. So otherwise, everything else hopefully will look the same. I will do a preparedness plan once we get closer to the date with all the executive orders and have that all ready, available for the 14th.
Do you expect the vendors to come back?
I do.
Oh, good deal.
I do.
Yeah.
We've had a couple already
Nice.
respond, so,
Yeah, it's,
Good.
yeah, I'm hoping it'll be bigger and better than ever, and people
Takes-
are ready to get out safely and.
Takes a lot of work, a lot of volunteerism. Gee
Yes, for
whiz.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure, always looking for people, so.
Yeah.
And Shauna, if I may,
Sure.
good opportunity to tell the folks at home who's watching the streaming exercise here how they can volunteer, who they should contact.
Yes, please do. You can contact myself at the Lonsdale Chamber of Commerce office. Number is 744-4962, or LonsdaleCommunityDays.com. You can go onto our website and request information through that website as well. But we're always looking for new chairs, volunteers. It's a huge project that we start a year in advance to plan for, and it potentially brings thousands of people to Lonsdale, not only for, for people to consider moving to, but to maybe open a business here. It's a great opportunity. So we're
Good,
excited to.
good. Yeah.
Of course, any questions or concerns that you guys have, but
Anybody?
You have no events on Friday night, correct?
correct.
Okay. Is it, and I contact you about this. I was wondering why the need to close at noon on Friday. With no events happening, is it possible to close Main Street a little later? So it isn't.
Not. Unfortunately, we have our festival soundstage that will be set up on Friday, as well as the tents. The beer garden takes 8 hours to set up. That's all on North Main Street, so it's just easier to close down at noon. Most of them are done by 5 o'clock work, so they have to be out by 5 o'clock and set up. So unfortunately, I think when I looked at the tally numbers, I think it affects 5 businesses. And to be honest with you, they can still be open, they just need to park a little bit farther. So it would be no different of walking to Target in a parking lot,
Right.
you know.
That's right.
You just may be a little bit farther.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But you're
Yeah.
still,
There's
you know,
South Main
you're
and
still
there's a
Main,
DRS
and-
parking lot. All the
Right.
things, so, yeah. That's good.
And Mayor
Good.
Rude, do you plug on K-Check?
I do.
Okay.
Every year.
So we gotta get that
Most years,
commitment.
most years actually I take Shauna with.
There you go, there you go. Okay.
Matter of fact, you're welcome on Monday if you care to.
All right.
So, okay.
So,
I think it's just a great cause for
Yeah.
the limited amount of people that you have that help with that. It's amazing you can get such a great turnout.
Absolutely.
Great job.
We have great
Over the
team
years, I
members.
mean,
Yeah.
over the years, I just think all the volunteerism and
Right.
donations and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's good, really good. Okay, anything else in regards to the items requested?
I'll make a motion to approve the request by the Lonsdale Chamber of Commerce for Community Days 2021.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second?
second by Councilperson Fuhrer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Consider approval of Resolution 2021-18, a resolution approving deferral of a special assessment in the amount of $14,000 for 612 3rd Avenue Southwest pertaining to the 2021 street and utility improvement project. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. As part of this year's street project, special assessments have been approved and will be certified to Rice County later this year in November, with the first payments due in 2022. Minnesota statute 435.193 allows residents to apply for deferral based on the following hardships: 65 years of age or older, for whom it would be a hardship to make the payment; retired by virtue of permanent total disability, for whom again it would be a hardship to make the payment; and/or a member of the Minnesota National Guard or other military reserves who is ordered to active duty, for whom it would be a hardship to make the payment. In addition, back in 2008, I think when we were doing the 7th Avenue Northwest project, we adopted Resolution 2008-46, which we put our own requirements in for disabilities. Mr. Malika has applied for deferral based on being permanently or totally disabled, and would therefore make it a hardship for him to make the payments. I didn't include that information in the packet. I do have that. He met the requirement for being disabled, and also another requirement was you have to meet the income requirements, and he met those requirements as well. If approved, all accrued amounts of the special assessment plus interest would become payable when one of the four things happens: when the applicant passes, upon the sale, transfer, or subdivision of the property, if the property loses its homestead status, or the taxing authority determines that there would be no hardship to require immediate or partial payment. The fiscal impact of the city is not collecting the levied $14,000 assessment plus interest over the 15 years. With accrued interest, the total amount to be paid is just over $20,068.94. To offset the deferral, the city would have to use prepaid assessment revenue or levy Malika's annual payment as part of the property tax levy to make the annual debt service until the assessment's paid. The alternatives would be to not approve Resolution 2021-18, and then included with staff's report is the deferred assessment application, the proposed resolution 2021-18, State Statute 435.193, and then also City Resolution 2008-46. And staff would recommend approval of the proposed resolution.
There's nothing new. I think every one of these areas has one or two that get deferred and qualify for this, so I move we approve.
Motion by Councilman Kadada,
Second?
second by Councilperson Fear. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of Resolution 2021-19, a resolution approving the issuance of general obligation improvement bonds, Series 2021B. Paul Donna. Welcome, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Council. Just a little over a month ago, I think I was here. You guys are busy. Growing city, and as you grow and continue to make improvements, given where the interest rate market is, it's good sense to leverage those low rates and fund those projects over time. So what we're here tonight is to present the finance plan for the 2021 street and utility project, improvement project, which will be looking to issue bonds to fund. We've got a finance plan that we put together. It's in your packet. It's just essentially the format that you've seen before on your previous phases of your overall improvement projects. On the first page is the sources and uses of funds, and consistent with what you've done in the past, what we do is we issue one set of bonds to fund the entire project, but we illustrate the various components of the bond issue by which you're going to be repaying those components. For instance, the street and storm sewer portion is from a combination of special assessments and property taxes. The water improvements and the sanitary sewer improvements are paid for from revenues from the respective utilities. And so we isolate those portions so you can track those internally and follow those through. So the total project into the project fund is $1,775,854. To that, we've got the financing costs, and there's interest that will be due prior to revenue received on the special assessment and tax portion that we illustrate as being capitalized into the bond issue. But then we understand that, in talking with Joel, that the city will just fund that with cash, so it's a wash. So we show it, we have to isolate that fund so that interest is segregated, but you'll be putting in that cash to cover that, so you're not borrowing for that up front. So overall, you'd be issuing approximately $1,830,000 to fund that total street project, street and utility improvement project. A couple of points, the bonds, because you're going to be issuing less than $10 million of tax-exempt bonds in the calendar year, we can bank qualify those bonds, which expands our universal buyers to banks. And banks are large buyers of bonds. So that's factored into our estimates. You'll also qualify for what's called a small issuer exemption under federal law. You'll be issuing less than $5 million in tax-exempt bonds, at least as of today. We anticipate issuing $5 million or less, which means that if in the event you actually generate any earnings above the borrowing rate, you can keep those. But I don't think we'll have an issue with that, but it's an exemption that's afforded to you. Bonds will be tax exempt. Bond opinion will be provided by the bond chair endorsed in the rating. And we'll get them rated. We just went through that rating process. We don't expect a change. It's going to be basically a follow-up phone call as to what changed from a month ago. And so your AA- credit rating is a pretty good bet that it will remain. In fact, they are aware of this project when they last reviewed it. So, and closing, we can get to market pretty quick because of everything else that's already in place. So as soon as we've got the balance of the paperwork complete, we'll be in touch and keep Joel posted and get into the market as soon as we can. What we're projecting on page 3 of the handout, you can see the overall debt service schedule is an overall interest rate, and this was produced about a week ago, of about 1.70% locked in for 15 years. When you add in or factor in the cost as a percentage, that's about a 1.90% over time. If these were sold today, it'd be slightly higher, but market has moved up a little bit. But it will go down just as much tomorrow. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then the last page, or the 4th page of the slides, is how it breaks out. If you look at the components from assessments to the property tax to the water and sewer revenues, each of those various components. And you can see, and I believe what we've done is we've factored in the deferral that you just talked about and approved the last agenda item. So like Joel mentioned, in essence, you'll be funding that up front over time until that gets paid at the end. But it's about a $60,000 city share overall over the 15-year period. So, any questions on the finance plan going forward, on how we put it together?
Anything to add, Joel?
The only thing that I would add as far as the interest payment that is due, was it 13,000 due 2/1, 20 or 22? We've already had one person prepaid their assessment, so it's not like we are using cash, but it's cash that's already been allocated towards this project.
Okay.
So
Good.
that would be the only thing I would add.
Okay. Otherwise, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Mr. Mayor, in your packet is a resolution that would essentially approve moving forward under this finance plan, and would allow for us to move into the market as soon as we're ready, and get those rates locked for you, which depending on how things shake out with some paperwork, it could be mid-April.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, we gotta pay for the thing somehow, right? I move we approve resolution 2021-19.
Motion by Councilman Kadada.
Second.
Second by Councilman Cherney. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of resolution 2021-20, a resolution approving the issuance of general obligation improvement refunding bonds, series 2021C. Mr. Donna.
Mayor and council, the city has always been proactive in managing outstanding debt, looking for opportunities to refinance and save money. This resolution would allow you to essentially put in place the ability to refinance your 2012A general obligation improvement bonds, which are for street and utility projects that got done back in 2012. In your packet, there's a page, and we'll cover one page. There's a lot of detail, but this cuts to the chase. Page 2, it shows what the savings is. You know, from a nominal viewpoint, it's not a staggering amount of money. Overall, the economics includes the current market, which we use to estimate the new money issue, but also the cost savings from going to the market one time and essentially leveraging the costs associated with doing the new money issue. So the costs of doing this are very minimal. The rates are great. Unfortunately, it's just not a lot of outstanding, not a lot of debt outstanding. And the interest rate that's outstanding is about 2.5%, so there's not a lot of spread to work with. So if this was on its own, we'd probably say, you know, it's probably not worth going through the time and effort and expense to refinance it. But since you're going through with a new money issue, just to pop it in there, If it works when we get to market, it's gravy for the city. If it doesn't, we hold off and
Sure.
go forward without it. What we'll be working with Joel on, if assuming you would want to move forward with it, is we'll be evaluating the cash on hand in the existing debt service fund to see what the best bang for the buck is on that cash, whether to reduce what you're going to refund and use it to pay down bonds instead. So we'll be evaluating that going forward. But with the adoption of the resolution tonight, you at least preserve the ability to refinance these bonds at the same time you go to market with the new money issue.
So you're projecting a $22,000 savings?
That's correct, and that's
Yeah.
net of the financing costs that have
Okay.
already been built into that.
Okay.
I have a question, Your Honor. Paul, since we're on the topic of refinancing bonds, we have, when the industrial park went in 2013, eight years ago, I believe it was around 1.5 million in a grant, 2.2 million in bonds. I'm just throwing rough numbers. Using the logic that you have tonight and knowing that we've been paying that baby down now by about 1.5 million, 1.3 million, would be a time to look at that, refinancing those as well?
It would be, and we've actually evaluated all your outstanding bonds.
You did?
We have, yes. And this is the only one that bubbles up that makes economic sense.
Okay,
today.
I just wanted to make sure, okay, you've answered my question.
Yes,
Okay.
and if I can tag on to
Sure.
that, we also, there was another issue, the 2015 issue, that it is in the money today by about $40,000, but it's what's called an advance refunding. Under current law, we only have one shot to refinance the bond in advance of its
Maturity
of its call date.
or call date,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
And so you want to make sure it's the right time. And given where the market is, time is only on our side, really. And we're a couple of years away from the call date. All else being equal, if rates were to remain in the same level, the savings will only get better. But there's also, so that's one consideration. The second consideration is the fact that the rates for this type of refunding, which would be done on a taxable basis, have increased almost 80 basis points since January. So it's not the best time to do it. And there's talk about changing some IRS rules at the federal level, which would impact this one and make it even a better candidate at some point in the future. So in talking with Joel, it was our recommendation to hold off. We'll continue to monitor it, and when it makes better sense, we'll certainly bring it forward. So we are watching all of your issues.
Okay.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so we're looking for resolution 2021-20.
I think anytime we get a chance to save money, I think we should. If it makes sense and cash flows, we should definitely do it. Move we approve 21-20.
Motion by Councilman Kadada.
Second.
Second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, consider approval of resolution 2021-21, a resolution approving state of Minnesota joint powers agreements with the city of Lawnsdale on behalf of its city attorney and police department. Jason Schmitz, Chief of Police. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The city of Lawnsdale currently has a joint powers agreement with BCA for criminal justice data communication. The systems are internet-based and used by the Lawnsdale Police Department for entering stolen items, missing persons, and criminal history checks for those to arrest or anyone that applies for a permit to purchase handguns. The agreement expires every 5 years, or if there is a change to the agreement, the only change is the amount being charged for the connection. We are currently being charged $180 annually, which has not changed since establishing the connection back in 2009. The connection fee has increased to $600. The resolution under 3, it refers to a prosecuting authority as an authorized representative. For that language, the prosecuting authority may also request that law enforcement run criminal history checks on individuals that we have arrested or charged with criminal offenses or charged with prosecuting. That's because it's only our records receptionist Candy. The reason is we get audited by the BC every 3 years on queries on that and policies and procedures. If you have any questions or
It's not like you can negotiate the price with them either. We'll find somebody a little more affordable. It is what it is, so. I'll make a motion to enter into the joint powers agreement with the Minnesota BCA.
Motion by Councilman Palava.
Second,
Second
but
by-
could we,
Second by
on our,
Councilperson Fury.
on our resolution here, it says 20,
That's why I was just looking back, I'm like, I
So-
think I just made that one.
but we're, yeah. so
Oh, we're
we're-
21?
We
Or
want
wait.
21.
Mine says
The
21.
agenda says 21, but on the,
Oh, okay.
It's, the agenda is correct.
21,
Okay.
okay,
21.
okay.
When I was setting the packet up, things got changed around. It's like, I'm not redoing everything. I'll put it right on the agenda.
Okay, so we're
White
talking
out
about
on the screen.
resolution 2021-21. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of resolution 2021-22, a resolution authorizing the Lonsdale Police Department to enter into an agreement with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety for traffic safety enforcement. Jason Schmitz, Chief of Police.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Due to the increase of serious injury and fatal crashes related to speed across Minnesota, the Minnesota Department of Public Safety has awarded agencies across Minnesota funding to put extra officers on the roadway enforcing speed and aggressive driving. This grant is separate from the TCD grant the Lonsdale Police Department currently participates in. The other TCD grant did not include speed enforcement section due to the low numbers of serious injury and fatal crashes in Rice County related to speed. If approved, the Lonsdale Police Department would be awarded $10,100 through September 30th, 2021 for extra enforcement for speed and aggressive driving. This would be a countywide effort and include departments of Thurlow, Marshall, Dundas, and Rice County. Since we are the current fiscal agent for the TCD grant, we would also be responsible for the speed and aggressive driving grant. The speed aggressive driving grant does require 20% match. Each agency will be responsible to meet that match based on the number of hours worked. So between that, obviously, Thurlow, Marshall, large agencies and authorities and that. But the match grant is basically just an officer working regular patrol, so he's got to spend a certain amount of that time traffic enforcement. That won't affect call for service hours. The call for service comes out. That takes out.
so that's 10,100 to Lonsdale or to the whole county?
It's the whole county.
The whole county, okay.
So we just manage the grant like we currently do with the other TCD grants. So if there's any other questions or.
No, I think it's a good thing to stay with. I move we approve resolution 2021-22, correct?
Motion by Councilman Kadada,
Second?
second by Councilperson Fury. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Presentation of Lonsdale Police Department's 2020 report. Chief Schmitz.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. For 2020, Lonsdale Police Department faced with different challenges throughout the year during the COVID-19 pandemic. Besides providing public safety services, we also had to change how we conduct business to keep officers and staff at the police department healthy. We did have some sort of virus travel through the department back in early February that affected 4 officers. Since then, we have been fortunate that the officers, staff, and their families have been healthy. Everyone at the police department has been doing their part to disinfecting shared workstations and the squad cars. We've also changed our response on certain certain calls, especially non-life threatening medicals involving the elderly, between the police department, rescue squad, and ambulance, we're trying to keep minimal person-to-person contact with the elderly, or those with pre-existing conditions. Another concern with the pandemic that some public safety departments faced was the increase in mental health and domestic calls. The police department had a decrease in domestic calls and had a slight increase in mental health related calls. With things shut down, and people working from home or not working, I did notice more people out and about using our parks and trails. It's great that people were able to use those parks. I think it really made a difference. I would see people on the basketball court, the tennis courts, more than they have in the past.
Good, good.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, good.
The Lonzo Police Department, along with other law enforcement agencies across Minnesota, had to change how we report information about crimes in the community. The new system we changed to is National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS, which requires data on 52 different types of crimes instead of only 10 compared to the old system. The new system also requires us to report all criminal offenses with more detailed information. We also started the process for a new public safety facility after concerns over safety and space needs. A committee was formed to work with the local architect to help design and with the parents of the facility. I'm very pleased with the design and the layout, which could not have been done without the help of officer staff of the police department, council member Scott Kalava, city administrator Joel Harrison, city planner Ken Baker, and the architect. I look forward to working with everyone as the project moves forward. I think we had to cover about 8 different meetings. I think we covered about every square foot of that building. So very pleased.
Including everything under the carpet.
Good, good deal.
Other changes the police department had throughout 2020 was the purchase of a new squad car. We replaced 2 in-car camera systems using forfeiture funds. We replaced our last old AED defibrillator that was approximately 20 years old. We also purchased a ballistic shield to provide added protection to officers during incidences involving a firearm. Hopefully that never happens. The CARES fund was used to purchase cleaning supplies, gloves, masks, and equipment such as computers, 4 tasers, and 3 portable radios to reduce the sharing of equipment to help reduce those contacts. Our pharmaceutical box, or Take This Box, has been in place for a little over a year, which has disposed of 80 pounds of pharmaceuticals. We continue to participate in the Towards Zero Death campaign throughout 2020, focusing on seatbelts, the hands-free law, and driving under the influence of alcohol and controlled substances. We also processed an overwhelming number of permit to purchase firearms in 2020 with 111, compared to the last 3 years where we averaged approximately 33. So far this year we have processed approximately 20. We did have a lot of traffic coming through the police department throughout 2020, just for that purpose. That included here, back in August of last year, I learned that we were one of the, we were the smallest, safest community in Minnesota, which I thought was really great.
Yeah, I see that, yeah.
But that can't be done without the community's help. To have a community that cares about Lonzo, that cares about your neighbors, city staff, and elected officials. So that was great.
Yeah, good.
Staffing, the Lonzo Police Department throughout 2020 provided 24/7 public safety services with 6 full-time officers and 1 part-time police officer and a full-time registered receptionist. In November, we had part-time police officer Todd Hansen resign and recently replaced his position with Officer John Peshta. The officer staff in the Lonzo Police Department consists of myself with 20 years, Officer Todd Bradford with 19, Officer David Orr with 14, Officer Jack Schleicher with 6, Officer John Thielen with 4, Officer Luke Morris with 4, Todd Hansen who resigned, got 4 years with us, and then Kenny Carpos, our record receptionist, has 15. The officers had approximately 400 hours of training in 2020. We continue to get some of our training through Patrol Online, which provides a variety of online training courses that also provide some of our yearly mandated courses. Due to the pandemic, many of those courses that required in-person were not offered or canceled throughout 2020. We did manage to put officers through local field force and 2 officers attend through 40-hour course on crisis intervention. That puts everybody in, through that course. Community policing, it had been a difficult year when it came to community policing, as it totally goes against how we interact with the community. The biggest request in 2020 was birthday parades, and we did a lot covering all ages. It was great to see the turnout from surrounding communities to show their appreciation to members, or surrounding communities show their appreciation of the community and street voters on Highway 19, which is really job.
Yeah.
And we had over
Gee, Liz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Knights of Columbus did put together a law enforcement appreciation event in September, which brought a large crowd. It was nice to see the support for law enforcement from local and surrounding communities, and the environment of law enforcement officers faced throughout the community. So, that was great to see, even the police support our local law enforcement signs throughout the community.
Yeah. Nice.
That was great.
Nice. Very nice.
For 2020, we had a 16% decrease from the previous year. A big part of that reason was due to the pandemic. For a few months starting in March, there was an uncertainty with the virus, and the main concern was keeping officers and staff healthy. During that time, officers were making less traffic stops and having lots of time. Like I said, during that, unless you were really speeding, we weren't making no stops. Our main concern was keeping the officers healthy, keeping the when they're healthy, just having that virus come through,
Right.
take out the department, the whole department.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's
Fill those spots.
well, and it's still around. I mean, I know residents that couldn't have it
Yep.
today.
Oh, it is
That's,
around.
yeah.
And we still do
Yeah.
take precautions. and that's
Sure. Sure.
But for the total incidences, as I said, we're down about 16% from last year. I did throw in the year 2010 went back to that annual report, just to kind of give you an idea of how we compare to 10 years ago throughout these different charts. Our crimes against person's property, obviously we did see an increase in theft from vehicle theft related crimes, and those in the lot of change, so down. Most of the assaults stayed the same, and like I said, where other communities saw an increase in domestics, we actually had a decrease. Traffic incidences, obviously the traffic stops are down, kind of part of that was due to the pandemic. It's great to see our DUI arrests were also down, and I think a lot of that people weren't able to go anywhere.
Right.
So a lot of that is another understandable. This is kind of the number of citations issued and motor vehicle accidents. And then the last chart, the other incidents, it kind of gives you an idea of, kind of the other calls that we handle on a regular basis, just to get an idea of how we compare to those other years. I know one I didn't include in there that we're the last couple of years we've seen a significant increase in is 911. That's just cell phones. You do it on your watch. People update their phone, their own phone goes to their kid, and they all have that emergency function on there that they can call.
Right. Right.
So, and then, the event count by event type, there's 2020 and 2019.
What about how do you handle gun permits? Is that up or down or steady?
Yeah, that's it.
That's
Like I
up.
said, we had 111 last year, and we averaged approximately 32.
Oh, really?
So, everybody's,
Great.
I'm falling behind.
I'll make up for that.
I'm sure you will.
The average, we'll have the mean here.
Yeah. Well.
So I don't know if you have any other questions, or...
No, I just want to reiterate, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of the council, what a great job that you have done with the police department. I mean, I think you know, we all get a lot of compliments on you and your staff and your officers and really fortunate to have you as the police chief. I think you did a lot of great things, a lot of, you know, the capital outlay and the community interaction, National Night Out, and some of the other things you guys do. So I just want to make sure that you know you're appreciated and you've done a really good job for the city.
Well, thank you. And we do, I mean, we get, you know, every once in a while get thank you cards.
Yeah,
Community members.
yeah, nice.
Which is really nice to see. And,
Nice.
No, we're hoping that this year, we're able to, you know, host a night night, and it sounds like the community will help back out, which is great, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Great community events.
Yeah. It's, you know, and I mean, I love our city. If you look at the big cities, especially with the defund the police and all that kind of stuff, I have residents come up and tell me that if the police ever need a hand with a crisis or something, they'll be right there, you know.
Everybody's got a gun now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So you have a lot of support in this community, you know. So, good deal. Thank you very much for a great presentation.
Thank
Yes,
Very
thank
good.
you. Do they have any signage, being that we are the safest city, safest small city, is there something, we should put, that's a promotable thing,
is.
shouldn't we have a sign out on our signs?
EDA item.
You know, we have the Tree City stuff, we should certainly throw it out there that we're the safest city.
That's a good point. Yeah, that is a good point.
And that was back in 2018, just because the FBI staff don't come out for the following year.
So, it doesn't
Still,
Yeah. It's still the point, though. You're right. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
We
absolutely.
still have the Redbird sign out there.
Exactly.
Out of the split, so.
They were state champions. Anybody forget that?
Still up.
it is, yes.
It's, well, yeah,
You
it's
just
so
don't notice
faded,
it.
you don't notice it anymore.
Right.
Can't see the
When
photo.
did my son,
The one over there.
no, the
No,
one
the one
over
at the
here.
V by Franz on
Yeah,
Arizona.
when my son came to the council meeting, God, it had to be what, 10 years ago?
Long time ago, he was
Yeah.
small.
He's like, it's so faded, we should do something with it.
Yeah.
It just got forgotten about.
Yeah.
Where are you gonna get that logo?
It's kind of interesting. Some of those kids, well, a lot of those kids live here. I bet there's 10 of those kids on that team that live in town. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
A couple of them blew over, and I don't remember if they went back up or.
Yeah. Okay, consider approval of a quote in the amount of $46,693.75 submitted by Visu Sewer for jetting and televising of sanitary sewer mains. Mr. Vlasak.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, we went out for bid on televising and cleaning of our sanitary sewers. This is the first time we're hiring this service. Anyways, the jetting, cleaning the sewers out. We did budget $25,000 for cleaning, and we did budget $25,000 for the televising. We felt lumping them together to have them bid them as one project. That's kind of the norm that we're seeing. So that gives you, they do it together, so then as they're jetting, they're televising the same line, you can get verification that they did clean the line. So that is looking like it's going to work out very well. Numbers came in lower than we thought they were going to, so we're really happy with that. The numbers are pretty close on most of the bidders, so very happy with that. We have the lowest bidder at Visu Sewer, and they have done work in town for us before, so we would be looking at recommending them. If you have any other questions, I will try to answer them.
Do we have any other areas that would need to get jetted in? Just thinking, as long as we have 50,000 budgeted for it, we want to try making up that $3,000 and add a manhole or person hole or whatever you want to call it.
I guess I haven't heard that before.
Oh, yeah.
Gender neutral.
Access
Central.
Service access point.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
Oh, here we go.
Right.
Thank
Structure,
you, thank
yeah.
you.
Structure.
I guess we could look at that. What we're trying to do is
go by our, policy, is trying to do a quarter section of town.
Sure,
And this kind of fits to that.
sure, I was just throwing it out there, I mean.
And that's, we're very happy we're getting what we're getting done. We didn't think we were gonna get as much done. So it turned out really good at this point.
Perfect.
Okay,
If you're satisfied, I'm satisfied.
okay.
And these are areas that are large lines, so we're really looking for some big leaks, if there are any, because they're very, most of this is large lines. That's kind of where we're going with it. Other things we're looking for is through the southern part, some of that doesn't have services and it's deep. So we're trying to look for those leaks and if there's any need for repairs before that next development comes in.
Very good. And we approve the quote from Bisview Sewer.
Motion by Councilman Kadada,
Second.
second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of ordinance 2021-305, an ordinance amending and updating City Code 153.62, landscaping and turf establishment. Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mayor Root and members of the council. When new homes go into town, when they pull a permit and then when they're completed, there's 3 items that we're mainly looking for along the process, and at the end, it'd be getting 2 trees in, a sodded yard, and then obviously a final grade and an approved as-built survey that goes along with that. Last year, or over the last couple years, sometimes we get a few properties that become non-compliant for various reasons, whether it's they don't sod, they may have raised the elevation of the home, or they have incorrect grading or unapproved as-built survey. There's different methods we've used in the past to try to get them to come into compliance. So we did take a little bit more of a review and look at this over the past half year. And with the city attorney and city engineer, we looked at tightening up some of these regulations and updating our landscaping ordinance. So at the bottom of that page, you can see that there were some things that we went through and discussed what would work and what wouldn't. We ended up coming up with increasing the landscape escrow amount, which you guys approved in early January, from $3,000 to $5,000. And we actually haven't had any contractors complain about that yet, just because of the cost of everything. $5,000 actually even doesn't get you very far as far as sod and driveway and grading. We've had that $3,000 in place for 10 to 15 years. And then also updating the ordinance, which we're looking at tonight. And then if the city would have to go in and do something, we would pursue what we call an injunction, and that's where we would get the right to go in and correct work if it got that far as civil law is concerned. And then what we did also on the very back of this memo is place some things that were recommended by the attorney on our building permit form, so that'll cover us if we would have to go do work, like the right of entry and then an assessment waiver. So tonight we're looking at 2 things. One is the attached ordinance, and then right after that would be a policy that our city engineer provided to us. The ordinance, there was a public hearing a couple days ago in regards to the planning commission, and that's the new 153-062. So there's a few sections in there. The general landscaping section talks about getting our final grade and soil retention. Talks about what the boulevard areas allow and don't allow. We added a more detailed and new section of as-built grading surveys to ensure that they are following the grading plan and conforms to that certificate of survey that John approves before the new house is built. At the bottom, we're just saying that the city shouldn't be held liable for any drainage issues. Everybody comes out, like we saw some meetings ago, neighborhoods will come out and after so many years, there's sometimes drainage issues, and those aren't necessarily caused by the city. It's just that they're, with grading and different things that are done in the backyards, sometimes drainage problems happen. The next page talks about trees. There's nothing real new here. We still require 2 trees per lot, and then with non-residential, it's the 1 per 1,000 square feet or 1 per 50 linear feet per site perimeter. And then we went into some more detail on turf establishment E. We just wanted to make sure that everything shall be sodded. There's a few instances where it's not required, only if it's approved by the city. Those are far in between. We want to make sure that yards get sodded, the neighbors appreciate it, and future homeowners appreciate it, and it's instant erosion control. Also, we want to make sure that silt fences are kept up throughout the whole project and follow the city's erosion control policy. We can use and try to use certificate of occupancies when we can, but those are mostly related to and held to if the house meets the building code, then we do have to issue those. So even though the yard and some of those things might not be done, we try to use those, but really it's some of these other things that'll help us ensure that these items get put in. Everything should be put in by July 1st of the following year. So anything that's being built right now, they would have to have sod in here this spring and early summer. And then the last page, F, is just, again, going through the things that we need. There's like 4 or 5 main things: trees, final grade, as-built, sod turf establishment, and erosion control. So if these landscaping items aren't done, we could use the landscape escrow to cover those expenses and then potentially assess those if it's greater than that amount. And the violation is at the bottom. So that is that one. And then
Okay, we should act on that one
Yep.
first, and if there's any questions, comments, thoughts? You said this went to P and Z for the public hearing?
correct.
We had no comments on that from the public, and everybody was on board with updating it. With that, I move we approve ordinance 21-305.
Motion by Councilman Canada.
Second, Your Honor.
Second by Councilman Cherney. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, consider approval, survey and grading policy for new residential home construction. Mr. Baker.
And to go along with the previous memo and ordinance, city engineer provided us template for us, and it was reviewed by a city attorney. Basically what this does is it creates a big, nice long list. There's 25 items that refer to the certificate of survey. That's done before the new house is constructed. So that surveyor and that builder would have to submit that to John, and he looks through this and makes sure that's all there. And if it is, then they can go ahead and get a signature from him, and if I sign off on the zoning stuff and Gary signs off on the building stuff, then they can get their permit. So then at the end of the process, B, on page 3 there, then they submit an as-built grading survey, and this is where we make sure that they did what they're supposed to do. So they shoot the grades and make sure that they have the right items there, and there's 15 of those that get on those scores. So if they meet all those, then that would get approved. And then we say go ahead and sod after that, so that they don't have to. Sometimes builders will sod and just take a chance, but they might have to roll it back up if it doesn't get approved, regrade it, get their as-built survey done, and then relay the sod. So they're taking a little bit of a risk. We'd rather not have them do that. Page 4 is basically just restating that we're going to have an escrow of $5,000, and if 2 years comes past, we actually can keep that $5,000, but if they do finally do what they're supposed to do, we would have to give that back. So it's not really a penalty, but we're just keeping it until they get it done. And then it talks about assessments again. If the costs exceed what we have for escrow, then we would be able to assess the property. And the final page 5 is that we can charge for inspections and review if we need to. So the planning commission did review that as well and recommended approval of that policy.
Okay, anything What?
Thank you.
Attorney?
Yeah. Ben, the project, the wood construction, where the house is pulled out of the ground, la, 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 is there any, was that an anomaly that whole thing happened? That the building was pulled up and, foot, 11 inches, 11 and a half inches there? Is there, was that an anomaly?
We did check with 5 area cities to the north of us that are all bigger. Shakopee does require an as-built survey be done midway through just to make sure.
Okay.
But then 4 other cities do not, and all of them said that it's very rare that they have changes outside the tolerance level.
Okay.
So yeah, it is
an
rare.
anomaly. Okay.
It's few and far between.
Okay, I just wanted to revisit that because we don't need that happening again, that's for sure. And if there was a stopgap measure that we could put in there while we're tweaking this, I'd do it, but it doesn't sound like we need to, as long as the due diligence that we do is carried out. Okay, Your Honor, that's all I have. Thanks, Ben.
Okay, any other comments? So we need a motion to approve as a policy.
I would make that motion, Your Honor, to approve the
Okay.
policy.
Motion by Councilman Cherney,
I'll second.
second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, consider approval of resolution 2021-23, a resolution authorizing adoption of a purchase agreement. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. You remember back, I believe it was the last meeting in November, or the first meeting in December, we entered into a purchase agreement with Advanced Exhaust Solutions for a portion of this outlot. It would have been basically the east, we'll say 60% of this lot. Recently, the city was presented with the purchase agreement to purchase all of Lot A by ALG Enterprises. They're interested in purchasing the outlot, and submitted the purchase agreement and escrow agreement. They want to purchase the property and construct between a 100 and 200,000 square foot structure with space to include incubator, and then in addition into industrial, office, warehousing, and manufacturing. With this type of space available in the business park, it will make it easier to attract businesses to town, as well as the space will already be built. The agreement is very similar to the one that we did approve towards the end of last year with Advanced Exhaust Solutions. The main point of the agreement is purchase price of just over $208,000, $5,000 in earnest money provided by ALG, which, depending on how it plays out, is refundable or non-refundable under certain circumstances. A closing date will be no more than 90 days from the date of this agreement. The city is to provide a limited warranty deed, pay the title commitment, half the closing costs. Excuse me. The city would be responsible for the assessment that was levied against the property. ALG will pay the title insurance, half the closing costs, and will be responsible for any future assessments levied against the property. The city and ALG acknowledge they both have the authority to enter into this agreement. The city will have to pay Cerrone Properties, our broker, a fee of about $6,200, which is about 3% of the purchase price. Both parties indemnify and defend each other for actions when they own the land. If ALG defaults on the agreement, the city's recourse is to retain the escrow money. If the city defaults, ALG would be entitled to a return of the escrow funds and initiation of civil action to compel the city to purchase the property. ALG may also recover attorney fees. If the agreement is terminated, the terminating party shall cite the section authorizing the termination. The non-terminating party has 3 days to dispute it. If the parties can't agree on the termination, civil action may be initiated. And then the agreement is governed by the laws in the state of Minnesota. By approving the proposed resolution, the city agrees to sell Outlot A, Lonsdale Business Park, Second Edition, according to the proposed agreement, and then authorizing the mayor and/or city administrator to execute the deed and other documents as may be necessary. In regards to fiscal impact to the city, the purchase price, as I just stated, is just over $208,000. Less closing costs and the special assessment with remaining principal of the $34,000. And again, we'll have to pay Cerrone. I believe when I added it up and assumed probably about $3,000 for closing costs, it's about $172,000 the city would net on this. Alternatives would be to not approve the proposed purchase agreement, and then attachments are aerial photo from Beacon, the Lonsdale Business Park second edition plat, the proposed resolution, and purchase agreement. I guess, unless there's any questions, staff would recommend approval of the proposed resolution.
Comments, anyone?
I'd like to hear from the council if anyone else has. I do have comments, Your Honor, but I would rather.
No, go ahead and start.
Well, it seems like I'm always the starter, Your Honor, but if you want, I will.
Sure.
Well, since Joel just closed with the city would net $72,000 on this after.
Actually, 172.
Oh, did I say, excuse me, I'm tired. 172, thanks for the correction. How do we explain that the break-even point on a square foot for this property is $2.50, and this contractor, or this purchaser, is paying 48 cents a square foot? How do we reconcile that? That's not a profit. If I personally own that land and I bought it, my break-even was $2.50 and I'm selling it at 48 cents, how do we reconcile that?
Well, just a couple of things I can just comment on. The actual cost is not 209, but actually it's more than the previous purchase agreement with Marco that we approved last month. There's actually an inherent problem with this lot that I don't know if people realize, but that storm sewer goes right through the center of that lot.
Okay.
Depending on what they propose to construct there, you could have $100,000 infrastructure costs there to realign that storm sewer and make it, a buildable site conducive to whatever they're going to propose. I did ask Joel to run this, and Joel and I have done a lot of work on recruiting these buyers. I think over the next couple of meetings, you may see some more put forth. And that's why I think, EDA going to be a different topic about dumping Cerrone, because I don't think they've done anything, but that's a different topic. But I think maybe Joel could talk about the tax impact on the dollars. One thing that I think we really should be aware of, 100 to 200,000 square foot building at Lonsdale is like the end of the world. One of the goals of EDA since we've been on the council is to put up an incubator building to lease space for tenants and the people that come to town. And I think it certainly will fulfill that goal, but maybe you want to talk on the tax impacts of a building that size?
Yep. As the mayor alluded to, we have been having meetings with several other interested parties in the business park. As part of that, they have asked us to run taxes. I've worked with the assessor's office to get our tax rates. And when we're meeting with these businesses, they tend not to want to deal with bureaucracy and red tape. They would rather cut the deal and be done. So when we're talking the cost per square foot, that is kind of our incentive. And we provide them with the Rice County tax abatement policy, which on past projects, Rice County has been more than willing to work with us. Getting back to the taxes, another project that we're working on, I obtained a spreadsheet or calculation from the county. If they're looking at a 100,000 square foot building constructed for $80 a square foot, which is probably reasonable, and it appraised out at that, just the city portion would be $90,000 a year. So I think from the staff perspective, that outweighs more than, trying to get, not sell the land at $2 a square foot. and then work with Rice, assist the buyer with Rice County and working with them to provide additional incentives. But at $90,000 a square foot, I think it's pretty safe to say that that's more than double the current highest industrial taxpayer in the city.
90,000 a year.
Per year.
Okay.
Plus all the growth of, so if they have employees. we're gonna have-
It's jobs,
there's
it's
gonna be a
lunch,
lot
it's gas,
more.
it's groceries, it's.
Yeah.
Well, council, hear me out if you would on this. About a year and a half ago, I suggested to Joel, I said, that's, since we've been setting on that since about 2013, and I walked that area, live over in that area, I just love that area down there in Pondview, and then we all put the road through there, and it's just a great place. And when exhaust systems came, I was excited to have a business, a real business that was existing, and we knew what the business was, and they were going to take a portion of that, and I go, oh, no, that's fine, I didn't like it, but I liked it, it was kind of double.
You didn't like what?
I didn't like the fact that the area where they were putting it, because I
Oh.
like that area down there, Your Honor. I had mentioned to Joel several times that since we've paid down the debt on that, I'd love to see that rezoned over there, refinanced, carve that lot out that's along Pondview and put up affordable, I don't want to say subsidized, that's what I not mean, but housing to attract businesses to Lonsdale. We don't have that apartment, need, and that's my wishes. So when this project hit me in the docket, I started rethinking this thing, and oops, excuse me. Here's where I'm at. Everything that is said here tonight with respect to big box attraction, an incubator, for those that don't know what that means from a real estate standpoint, that's basically creating the shell of the egg and then you put a chicken inside, so that basically we're attracting business with that. And I understand the nomenclature here. Here's the downside for me. What I'm afraid of, since we don't have a known business going in there, we have talk of a big building. We don't really know what would go in there, number one. That's first concern I have. Number two, I understand the financing as far as taxing, if this happens, $90,000 a year, 10 years, $1 million, a lot. Okay, so over time, and plus the attraction of the business, well, I understand that fine. So the prime spot down there along Pondview, which we as a leadership team could rezone and could seriously look at that and say, wait a minute, we're going to use that for condos down there for folks that are going to work in the 100,000 square foot building. There is 33 acres over there. I think we've used, 3 of the acres or something. I don't know what the exact, there are, if this builder wants to bring that, take up closer yonder, leave that section down there, take the parcel that they want, and maybe one across the road, still have the same footprint. And, who's to say, maybe that road going through there, if it's a large enough facility, maybe that road shouldn't, the road that circles down through there, maybe that should go away and you put your 100,000 square foot. But Your Honor and Counsel, my plea for you is that we, even though we all want to sell that, we all want to get that going, we also need housing in here for those single folk workers, that work there. And that's really cool. And then as a last plea on this, y'all, is that because it's so close to residential and so close to what I call prime area down there, that before we go ahead with a purchase agreement, that we get feedback from the community through just have a public, you can call it a public hearing, you can call it just a shoot the bull session to let the public know what's before us rather than jump on this. It sounds like, since we don't have an existing business coming in, and this is an opportunity to future planning, that we have time to call a meeting, get some feedback to see if this idea is all wet or not for me, as far as that little section of property. And that's my plea to you all tonight, okay?
Just a couple of clarifications there.
Yes.
First of all, when this whole vision with industrial park started, Joel was fortunate enough to get a $1.3 million grant
Yes,
for an industrial park.
yes.
So to rezone it is not even consideration, let alone for, low-income apartments or
It is,
something,
Your Honor. It
So-
is because we've paid it down. It wouldn't be,
Well,
it
well,
wouldn't be, but
all right,
it is.
well-
I've looked at the grant. I've read the whole freaking document
Right.
on the thing, so it is something that can be done.
It can be done.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But the goal of EDA, starting back many years ago, was a vision for a large building. We even talked about constructing an own incubator building. I think you used the analogy of the chicken and egg. Well, there's been a lot of chickens that came to City Hall over the last 10 years that wanted a building. I think this actually is a white knight, and the best thing that could ever happen to that industrial park and that area, as far as having the community for the residents along that street. Obviously, it's an industrial park. It was there when they bought the home. It's there when houses are constructed. Between the staff and planning and zoning, they mitigate noise and traffic and all that kind of stuff. But primarily, the reason we acquired that land on the east side of town is for access going east. So you don't have trucks that go through town, through residential, all those kind of things. For a city to acquire a 1 to 200,000 square foot building in town, especially for our size, is the end of the world. I mean, there's a lot of cities that would give them the land, give them the TIF, give them the whole package. And as I mentioned, Joel and I have met now with 5 more potential, or 5 total potential buyers. And you're going to have that request. So you should be prepared for that. Some may be local, some may not. But I think this particular lot, especially with that storm sewer, getting more money than on the purchase agreement that we just approved, 30 days ago, is an absolute home run. And I don't know how you get a better deal than what's on the table right now. I mean, it's great to think of condos and all that kind of stuff. And, well, first of all, who's going to build it? Secondly, it's a risk and reward. We're going to need single-family housing in the near future, and the developers I talk to are really squirmish because of the land price, the cost of construction, all those kind of things. It's going to be hard to build a residential lot for less than $100,000. So obviously that, by the time you put a house, doesn't make it affordable. But I just think that, you're getting more than you just approved a month ago, and somebody's absorbing the inherent problems of that lot.
Well,
I don't, I don't know how you get it.
I'm not here to debate. I'm just here to give my
Sure.
opinion.
No,
Your
you
Honor.
have every right, absolutely. Every right.
And,
I just don't think after the ups and downs of the housing bust, this vision started back in '07. I don't think we should be a city that would blink.
No, I agree. This market might change just as fast as we know
Exactly.
it.
Interest rate.
And we might sit on these for 15, 20 more years.
and we might sit on a building that's built with nobody in it for 15 years, too.
We're not sitting
We're
on
not
it. though.
sitting on it.
I know, but our city is sitting with a big hunk in there.
I don't
Yeah.
think anybody's putting up an $8 million building without a tenant.
Your Honor, is it real then that, I don't know when, is it gonna break ground then, or?
Well, you read the document.
Yeah, I did, but
Do we have it, my question would be, is there, some kind of a plan? Have we seen any kind of a rough draft of this?
is there a
what we
model
are
or
hopeful?
something, or?
Or,
We have not. My understanding is that their group is working on that, to the point of having a public hearing. Once there is a plan submitted, the planning commission will hold, is it a public hearing or an informational meeting? And we, provide notice to everyone within 350 feet of that parcel. Just like we would have for, the shed that was tore down and rebuilt on Main Street, or the bank, in town. But no, we have not seen a plan. Also, part of the purchase agreement has a clause where if they do not start construction on their project from 1 year of the date of closing, the city has the option to purchase it back at the purchase price. And then obviously we would have to, if there were any liens or encumbrances put on the property, there's language in there that says the city can rectify them and take action to recoup their costs.
Your Honor, since you all put a lot more time in this city than I have, I'll just ask you, Kevin, I'm gonna go right down the line here, roll call, not a vote, just comment. What's your opinion on this, Kevin?
I think it's one of the greatest deals I've seen actually on this whole parcel.
In the whole time
On
you've
this
been
parcel,
here, on this
yep.
parcel, Your Honor, how do you feel?
Well, I think that's clear, and I think, just so we're clear, this question, based on what Joel and I have been working on,
Yes.
is gonna come along,
Multiple
maybe
times.
every month, or at least the next 2 months. One, I think, is a smaller parcel, it's gonna be more money. One, I think, is gonna come looking for free land.
Okay, so there's activity then, okay.
So, I mean, but that, nobody, just like Marco, or there's been some interest prior to that, everybody, kind of talks pretty big until it's time to write the check.
Right,
You may know.
Right.
I don't think Blake, I think this is the best,
So-
this
so
is a
there-
goal that EDA
so
has
you're-
worked on for
Okay,
20
so
years.
there's no doubt in your mind as mayor?
Well, I guess my point is.
Is there any reservation in your mind, Your
No,
Honor?
I guess the point is, and that's why we have the repurchase agreement.
Mhm.
Okay, if he doesn't fulfill, or doesn't, it's not like he can flip it. City gets it
That was
back.
one of the questions, but
Right.
I read it and it didn't look like he could.
Right, so I mean, that's a
Or
big
she,
thing,
or
because in
whoever.
the old industry park, a couple of other developers kind of tried to do that, we said, that ain't the
Okay,
deal.
okay, so you're good.
But-
Look, okay, thank you, Your Honor. Cindy, what's your comments on this one?
As it looks like a great deal. I want to make sure that the city is protected. We don't want to have someone come in and flip this. And if you've got the language all in there, we're covered. Because that was one of the things we looked at when we sold the land at $1 a foot in the industrial area by the maintenance department. That, we didn't want this to happen. And now we're selling it at even a more discounted, probably better lots. But we want to make sure that this isn't going to happen. As far as EDA, the EDA has looked into incubator buildings. We toured Owatonna's incubator building, and we have had different times where people came and they needed a building and we didn't have it. We had no place to put them, and so they ended up going to a different, someplace else that was ready for them. So in that vein, and in sitting on the EDA, the few years I've been there, it's an ongoing, the need is there. The need is also there for apartments, though. And I think it would be really cool to have apartments there with it looking over the nature area. But if that's not the right fit, if we got the bird in the hand, is worth two in the bush.
Right.
So you take this, or, okay.
I would have to say,
Okay.
take this,
Okay.
as long as we got the clause in there that it has to get built within a certain time, not able to flip, and, let's get this forward.
But before you get, Scott, I just want to add a couple of things, and, I mean, when I was on the council with, actually Cindy's mom and dad, over the years, we have blinked. St. Michael Foods was a prime example, Keiko was a prime example. The fathers at the time didn't want to, maybe give the best deal possible. Well, St. Michael Foods is in Gaylord, Keiko is in Faribault. Sheriff Hydraulics is not around anymore, but they went to Faribault. I just don't think we try and get cute and but anyway, that's my, just a little history.
See, what do you think about, thank you, Your Honor, I appreciate it. That's cool. You guys had that deep history. What about getting the community involved before we'd actually pull the trigger on a purchase? Do you think that's important, Cindy? Just to get the.
I think there's always been, we've all sat through it. When are they gonna get something in that industrial park?
Right.
When are they gonna
Right.
get something there? Geez, look at that land out there, we're paying
Okay.
and nothing's there.
All
Well,
right.
here it's coming.
Okay.
Do we, I don't think I'm
So-
not so sure we need to ask them, is this okay to do this? I think we'd be,
Yeah, I was just more of an informational letter writer,
Yeah,
because
but-
we're the
but
leaders.
also-
We're the ones that make the hard decisions, but just as an informational.
I think what's frustrating, and I'm sure we've all felt it even the last month.
Mm-hmm,
So you get everybody all worked up, you get Marco to come to council meeting, yeah, we're gonna build, it's real, all this kind
Mhm,
of jazz,
mhm,
and nothing happens.
right,
And, you know, whoever buys lots here is not gonna design buildings unless they know they own the lot.
Right.
right,
They're not gonna stick any money
No,
into it until
no.
then.
right,
No.
right. Okay, all right.
I'm sorry, Scott, I guess.
I guess I'll look at it this way. We'd be getting a little less on the sale up front, but more on the end. I view it as an investment. You know, there's a potential, because, you know, Apple, whatever, you know, you never know what you're gonna get out of it. So, and yeah, mirror Cindy with the EDA and everything, we've so many times we've been so close, and I think if I think we're about 15 minutes too late in, or too far into it right now with the discussion.
Mhm, okay.
So, I'm gonna make a motion to approve 2021-23, to accept the purchase agreement.
Motion
Second
by
that.
Councilman Palava, second by Councilman Kadada. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed?
I'm gonna abstain from voting, Your Honor.
Abstained? You have a financial interest?
I have a psychology interest, let's put it, all right?
Typically, abstain is for financial.
I
Okay.
know it, but it may lead to that. No, I do not
Okay.
have a financial interest, so what I'll do,
No, it's fine. You
no,
can
no,
abstain.
I can, since you challenge it, you make a good
No,
point of clarification.
I didn't mean that. I'm just saying typically that's okay.
No, I'll, if I may have the pleasure yet
Yeah,
to
it's
vote.
whatever.
I'm glad you all heard me out graciously on this, and I'm going to defer to the knowledge that I have and to you all's deep knowledge of working it to this point. So I vote with you on this, in favor of it.
Okay, opposed, motion carries. Okay, just to add, and I kind of touched on that before, the two things that need to be addressed, and it's an EDA issue, is Cerrone, or in previous was Christopherman Wakefield or something. We have to have some type of agreement where if we're bringing the buyers to the table, they don't get a cut. I mean, I don't care if they're a listing agent, they bring somebody, but this is now the third time, you know.
They're discounted.
Do they discount it?
Yeah.
At 3% that I saw in here, right?
Yeah, it is discounted from what we would pay if they brought them to the table. The current agreement goes through the end of May.
Right. So I guess at a minimum, maybe consider renegotiation or whatever.
Or terminate at the end of May,
terminate it.
Your Honor.
Right.
You all bring them to the table, and
I wouldn't be as far as opposed to give them the 3% if they, you know, or 2% if you guys meet with the people and bring them to the table. Or tell them, you get us full asking price, whatever we want, and you get 10%. Make them
Well, we
some
don't,
sort
I
of
mean, they
incentive
don't.
to bring somebody.
They don't bring something to the table, and the reason we haven't even asked them to join, you know, is they don't add
It
nothing, they
could
don't
be,
bring nothing, right?
could be counterintuitive too.
Right.
Right.
well, I took excuse me.
I was
took-
just
yeah,
gonna
go
finish
ahead.
up this thought.
Mhm.
So, and it kind of boils back down, and the other 3 or 4 that we are talking to or been having discussions with, all have ties, again, to the community. You know, I think some, one you guys all know very well. The other ones have business. One has a business in Minneapolis that wants to be out of Minneapolis, and they live in the South Metro, so they know of Lonsdale and all those kind of things. So I wish we could be more, forthcoming, disclosing names or whatever, but at this point, they're all just want to, stay under the radar. But anyway, so again, you're going to have this question, likely coming up. I would think you may have the next one, the 3-acre parcel at the next council meeting, potentially, But anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, fine, I interrupted you. I took a picture up in Burnsville a couple of weeks ago and sent it to Joel. They do a great job advertising. They do their own EDA. EDA, and I would love to bolster our EDA with a big sign, again, I mean, huge, just really play it up and let Saron go bye-bye, Your Honor, so that's my vote.
I think, another advantage, and Joel touched on that, is these lots. If you could sell them without the bureaucracy and the
Yeah.
TIF and all that kind of jazz.
Way more money.
Right, and we're not.
I think one thing that people look at too, or they see that, we get a deal made, it gets past the council, it comes to planning and zoning and it's ready to build. It's not a week at the realtor, a week at the county, a week, it's not missing another season, it's actually ready to go. So I think people actually appreciate that.
Right.
Well, one of our fears, I haven't hesitated to bring it up too. Saron very well could say, or any realtor, that you have could go, oh, you're looking at them? Well, I think we might have a better option for
Right.
you over here because of this or that, and steer them, and steer them away.
Right.
We don't know how many times that may have happened.
And unfortunately, you're exactly right. I mean, if you look at what's going on in the Lakeville Industrial Park, where Saron is from, I mean, it's booming.
Really
It's just, they've jumped the highway now on Dot and all that. But
And we're not saying they're doing that, we're
No,
just, we're just kicking around the idea of
Yeah,
marketing
but
ourselves.
even at that,
so.
if someone reached out to Saron and said, hey, I'm looking for something, there might be 5 other locations that are gonna get precedent, or, because they've got a
We
a
all,
little
we all
bit
operate
bigger
in our best
community,
interest.
whatever,
Freeway or
this will be a
something.
better fit for you.
We operate.
And I think, EDA is you guys have worked your tails off all you guys for a long time to recruit business and that TV ads and all those kind of stuff. But it sure seems like it comes back to if they know somebody here, or one of us, or know of us, or an employee lives here, or something.
It's an ongoing thing at the EDA. Should we keep them? Should look at how should we keep them? Well, they have not brought us anything yet.
And
so
I
that's
think
the hard part.
what I'm gasping at, some of you probably know more than anybody, Steve, is all this stuff that's going on in Minneapolis is going to drive businesses out of
Oh,
there
definitely.
pretty fast. I think, and especially as it progresses for the next couple of months, there's going to be a lot more. And I think what we found, there's a lot of people don't even know we have an industrial park.
That's right, that's right. I know we've made a few calls, Joy and I have made a few calls to businesses that are exiting, just to let them
Sure.
know that we're out here, and I would strongly recommend, if we don't have a pipeline into that, it's just, we're out there waving our flag, because there are hundreds of businesses that are exiting.
Sure. Okay, anything else? Anything else you need, Joel?
No, I guess I would just, to the mayor's point, there could be some pretty big things happening here over the next couple of months, and the council is, gonna be put in a position where they're gonna have to think long and hard about the cost of that land. So.
That's a very good point, and especially if we get to a budget meeting, if nobody, I don't see anybody even considering, $2 a square or whatever. So that is a good point. And maybe it's a little bit of case by case basis. It depends what they. Because to kind of touch your point a little bit, if somebody's just going to put up a, whatever
Pole barn.
and have 2 employees, that doesn't do a whole lot for the city. But if you have somebody with 100,000 square foot building putting up, 40 employees, well, that's a lot different.
Something to consider too is the cost of construction has gone up so much just in the past year that reduced rates for the land might be the only way anything happens, because they can't afford to build anything with that,
Right.
They can't afford both parts.
Right.
Well, we're evidently at the right price, because we have an attraction, right? So the market is it sounds like the market is telling us, what that price is. It sounds like it, if that's the interest here. If we need housing, I guess we're gonna have to address that for these bills, but let's get them here first, and then get them in, because that, sitting out there like that is.
You raise, but I guess just a comment on housing.
Yeah.
So you have the parcel on the north end of town, on Big 96 there. That's sort of be conducive to apartments or condos or whatever. But as you know, a builder's only gonna build it if if
He's gonna make some money.
make some money on it.
Yeah, and
you know.
fill it up.
Right.
And we gotta get the businesses out here so we can fill up the condos, so.
The issue I see with trying to build a apartment type facility for a certain worker group, I'm picturing, you know, the coal mines of the 50s. You know, you had your coal mine and you had your employees were there.
Yeah.
You know, and is that, you know, people are wanting a place, they want to make it their own. I don't want row houses, you know, that mentality, it just becomes, this is just a place where you
Right.
sleep, you sleep and work there, it isn't ever really home for them.
But just to give you just a brief foundation, last 3 years I've been involved in Minneapolis and heavily involved in a $10 million project that was residential and retail together on some very dicey, you know, property. I'm not saying that's dicey at all, but that's what kind of triggered my thought as far as I visualize. But I also have to remember I'm not in Minneapolis either. You know, and it's a different venue. But that when I see that parcel of land down there, and I can picture retail. I can't picture manufacturing, but I can picture retail and condos and all that. But I think I better leave that mind up there and bring my Lonsdale mind. So anyway.
Joe brings up a good point with, you know, we should all, you know, think long and hard what the land is worth. I don't know that a discounted rate at land plus a tip is such a great idea.
You never don't do that,
You know,
Kevin.
so I
No.
think during negotiations, if that's straightforward, you know, that way, I think
Right.
one or the other. You know,
Right, I think we can't afford to do both.
Right.
Right.
You know, we can do the, you know, if we have discounted land, maybe that's when the county steps up
Yep.
to assist to make this happen.
Right.
Right. I agree with that.
Well, thank you.
No, it's good, I mean, it's a good discussion, you gotta have the discussion.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, staff, I mean, they need guidance as we go down the path here.
Well, Joel helped me this afternoon understand, you know, we spent some time together too, and I tell you, every day I'm in Lonsdale, I learn something new, you guys.
Okay, anything else on this? Otherwise, we'll go on to consider approval of resolution 2021-24, a resolution requesting John Peshta be accepted as a member of the Public Employees Police and Fire Plan effective the date of Peshta's initial police and fire plan salary deduction by the city of Lonsdale. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is a resolution that the city does not adopt that often. John Peshta was recently hired as a part-time police officer. We're anticipating based off of the number of hours that shifts that he'll be working, will qualify for PERA. He currently has a full-time position and is already under the police and fire plan. So we're recommending that this resolution be adopted so that any PERA contributions made by the city on his behalf be allocated to police and fire. Typically, if we hired a part-timer, we would just leave them in the coordinated plan. And the reason that the police and fire has to have a resolution is it has a higher contribution rate by the city compared to a coordinated plan, which the remainder of the employees are under, but the city does not pay into Social Security for police and fire. And we don't have any firefighters that qualify for PERA, it's just our full-time police officer. So staff would recommend approval of resolution 2021-24.
So move.
Motion by Councilman Kadada.
Second.
Second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. To the added item 2021-25. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. As I'm working with our bond counsel, Dorsey Whitney, on providing all the documentation for the financing that Mr. Dono is here today, it came to our attention that the newspaper did not publish the public hearing notice that I had sent them. I need to provide an affidavit of publication, proof that it was published. On finding that, I went back to my emails, coordinated with newspaper. They didn't have any documentation. So late this afternoon, I was working with the bond counsel as to what needs to be done, if anything, to basically just, well, quite frankly, protect the city. if anyone would say, hey, that wasn't published or what have you. So the recommendation by our bond council is to reconduct the improvement hearing, which we had back on October 29th, I believe. So staff's recommending resolution 2021-25 be adopted, which schedules the second improvement hearing for April 29th at 7 p.m. or shortly thereafter. So we will have to send out notices to the residents again. So this will be actually the neighborhood meeting, 2 improvement hearings, and an assessment hearing on this project.
Can't say they weren't notified.
They still will say they weren't.
Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
Joel, did you run this by the attorney? Do we have to do this, or can we just suspend this and, since this is a kind of administrative foo-fop? I don't think we have to do this.
Their recommendation.
Who's right, the bond guy? The bond firm?
Yep, our,
Well,
essentially our attorney representing us to make sure that
It
we're
was the
compliant
attorney.
with statute. Dorsey Whitney.
Okay, all right. I thought it was just the bond company. I'd say, let's just run it by. Okay.
I was hoping that my
Make-
email and their confirmation of receiving my email and notice would be sufficient to show intent. But they're,
What's the punishment if we don't do it? And just say, wait, we're not gonna go through all this again.
well, I suppose
What,
if someone.
slap on the hand, don't do it again? Because if that's the case, I'd say let's go ahead. rather-
I would, just so it doesn't, so that they
How
couldn't
about
contest their
nullification of
assessment, you know what I mean?
$532,000 in special assessment?
Right.
Can they do that? See, I don't, see, that's the legal, well, that, it's not, if you guys wanna go through it, let's just do it.
This won't delay our process
Yeah.
or anything,
I
so,
just hate-
Just in case.
All right.
you know.
I hate
So
to
just a
watch this.
clarification, you sent them the email requesting it, they acknowledged that they received it?
Well, then,
But it just never got put in the paper?
well,
Okay, thank you.
I don't know.
I think for the amount of pushback we're having.
It was
there, I
not
think
an
we should just
administrative
Have another meeting, and
Issue.
You wanna do it?
I think so.
I
Okay,
think we
well,
should just do this to cover ourselves, and I know it's an added expense, but.
let them know that we don't like it, though.
It'll take about 5 minutes.
I know the information pretty well. Be able to expedite it.
Yeah, maybe we should do a 3-day hologram of you. Jeez,
I doubt anyone's even gonna show up. I'll probably get more phone calls. What's this hearing for?
yeah, okay,
Can you put a little side thing on that this is a do-over?
yeah.
That come if you
Yeah, I
like,
was
but.
planning on
Honor,
working on that.
Your Honor, do you need a motion on this?
We do.
Okay, motion approved.
Motion by Councilman Chorney, second by Councilman Kadada. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Department reports, Mr. Vlasak.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, we finished the first round of sweeping and then had to go and throw some more sand down, so we're going to do another round, but I think we're gonna hold off a little bit longer to see where this weather ends up for the second round. We will be working on boulevard restoration, hopefully next week as it dries up, be able to start doing some of that. Got bids for the jetting and the televising, so that'll be hopefully starting. Parks, we've been starting to do rounds at parks because they've been busy. Especially today, I noticed that everybody's back at the parks. So we'll be doing inspections on parks daily from now on. That'll be starting. As of Day 2, we're going around and checking all of the inlets and outlets for our storm ponds and storm water areas. The project for Willow Creek materials are on site, so we will be waiting to whether conditions are available to get started on that also. So a lot of things going to be starting up.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Powell.
Yep, Mayor and City Council members, for the 2021 Street and Utility Improvement Project, the contracts, bonds, and insurance were sent to the city attorney today to review. The contractor has executed it, so assuming everything's in order, then the next one to execute would be the
They've indicated, BCM has indicated that they'd like to have a pre-construction meeting probably within the next couple of weeks. And then start tree clearing after that, so they are trying to get a jump on it. You know, a lot of times it's early to mid-May, and they might even be in there mid to late April, starting out, so. The contracts for the Trichka Park parking lot and walkways have been sent to Crane Creek Asphalt, so they're working on pulling their bonds and insurance together on that one. We haven't seen it back yet. And we're providing some support to Public Works for some bituminous patching and mill and overlay work that they have going this year, so working on that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sounds like a busy summer. Mr. Erickson.
A few things, working with U of M Extension, EDA on the BR&E. Had a wetland TEP meeting with WSB and city engineer, Bowser, Army Corps on some LGI lots. Worked with Shan at the Chamber on the Lunch and Learn that the EDA is sponsoring next Tuesday at noon. And that is coming out from some of the BR&E survey results. Extension, being associated with the University of Minnesota, as of now can't meet in person until July, and we didn't want to wait until July to start doing some things. So we're going to work on some of the educational components that businesses said that they were looking for. Working with Walden, the police chief, on value engineering and contract documents, reviewing seasonal full-time public works applications, working with APG on digital marketing. As we talked about earlier in the meeting, economic development, potential businesses to town. Kind of been a few of the things for since our last meeting a month ago.
Do we know when groundbreaking is for the police facility? Have you established a date?
We do not have a date as of now, no.
I meant you'll coordinate a groundbreaking event or something.
Yep, absolutely.
Council. Okay. Is that it?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks again for all your work.
What have you been doing?
I thought he was taking a breath. I didn't know.
Dramatic pause.
Yeah. We get it, Joe. You're working your tail off.
Everyone is.
Yeah. Oh, good job. I know you have. Mr. Baker.
We don't get them very often. I think we've only had one since 2017, but we got our second beekeeping license application, so that's under its review right now. Still at staff level, we're working with iWork building permit software, trying to get that up and running before it gets busy season, although we are seeing quite a few people come in for permits already, so since it's gotten nice. And started working on our sign ordinance update. Planning Commission.
Yeah. So the signage, I mean, is that something ED wants to do just in an industrial park? Is that?
They've been discussing various types of signage changes, because like the current ordinance for off-premise signage and stuff is an issue to try to market downtown, so that's got to be addressed beforehand. So it's not just industrial,
It's all over town.
Yeah, try to get some way that we can advertise downtown businesses.
Sure.
And make it so it would be compliant with the ordinance, because right now, if we put say a sign at, near the, IC Civic Center, just for an example, if we had something there, technically it wouldn't be in violation of the ordinance.
I see.
So
Okay.
we've got to address
Good.
that.
Okay, thank you.
Question for Joel, with this new meeting that's coming up for the, will I give them 30 more days to make their payments?
No, it's the improvement hearing.
Oh, okay.
So here's the project we're gonna do. We're taking a step back.
Anything else, Mr. Baker?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for all your work. Councilor Journey.
Yes, Your Honor, thanks again. The library board met via Zoom meeting, and I had broached the idea of stepping aside as a voting member and adding a citizen as a board member. but being a liaison, from the council, and they all agreed to that, so I amended the bylaws, and the bylaws will be circulated to the group, and then we'll vote on it at our next meeting. And that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilman Canada.
Planning and zoning met last Monday. I think all but 2 items that we talked about tonight were on our agenda. Only other couple things were signed ordinance we will be working on the next couple of months. And planning and zoning had a request for shipping containers in the yard at the shed. And that was decided and talked amongst ourselves. And we'd like to keep that consistent with the current shed regulation. So that would be matching siding and rope at the principal structure.
The containers are probably in the Suez Canal.
Yes, probably. Backed all the way up, right?
Yep,
Just
yep.
like at the fuel pumps.
Oh my gosh, what a mess. Anyway.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for all your work. Councilperson Fuhrer.
The EDA met last week, and we talked about our BR&E program, and then also the lunch and learn, that'll be next week. And so hopefully there's a good turnout for that. The RSVP cutoff was today, so hopefully everybody who wants to attend has contacted the chamber office.
I think at noon, Shanna said they had 33 people.
Oh, nice. Oh, very nice.
What she
Yeah.
had at noon, so.
Yeah, nice.
Should be pretty close.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for your work.
Thank you.
Councilman Plava.
Then he covered the EDA. It was actually, I think, a world record meeting. We were done in about 48 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so.
What did you do the rest of the day?
We had to go to work.
Some of us have to do that.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was a short agenda.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for all your work. I still think that the Eagle Scouts tonight, that was pretty cool. Really nice for Lonzo. The other thing, I don't know if some of you have noticed, but the TCU wrestling team qualified for the state tournament the first time ever. And of that, there's a bunch of Lonzo kids on there. That's why it's kind of a big deal. I think over half of the team is from Lonzo there. So big shout out to them for all their hard work. Really cool. And then I got K-Check on Monday, and like you mentioned, when the time comes, I'll certainly plug Sean along.
I appreciate you. In fact, I was gonna ask you if I could go with you.
Maybe
I've
next-
never been down there.
Okay. Well, yeah, maybe next time we can rotate council members in there.
Well, I tell you, I was on
January,
WCCO, had my own show
February.
for a year.
Oh my God!
Yeah, the morning show with Denny Long.
You and Denny were.
Yeah.
You were the DJ or what?
No, I was actually a spokesperson for Home Depot. I was a calling expert as a builder.
Really?
Yeah, for a year.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh!
I had fun with that. I'd bring in donuts and stuff. And I had a setup one time, but I'll just tell you quickly. They did it to me. Caller calls in and says, she goes, I just had a remodel job done in my bathroom, and they'd installed a bird bath in my shower. And I'm looking at the guys that are screening and a smile. I said, well, ma'am, could you describe that bird bath? Well, it's on the wall. It looks like a seashell. I said, ma'am, I think that's your soap dish. They set me up with, it was funny at the time, but anyway, okay.
I guess you had to be there. Right?
I think so, yeah. But I never will forget it, though. Yeah, I had a good time with that, so anyway.
I hadn't been there in a long time since I did my show out there.
Yes.
When I did my show at K-Check, was that for another year?
Yeah.
Back in the old days.
Yeah.
Just 2 things real quick, Mayor. I'm sure a lot of you know our former longtime building inspector, Jim Philippek, passed away here a couple weeks ago. So Pat and his family are in our thought and prayers. I believe there's visitation is in Montgomery at noon on Saturday. And then to Tim's point on TCU Wrestling, 3 p.m. on Saturday, they're having a parade just real quick from Trichka Park north on Main Street. So
Yeah, very cool. Good job for the school. Yeah, pretty excited. They did a lot of good work. So. Okay, anybody else?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion by Councilperson Fuhrer, second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This meeting's adjourned.